So when it comes down to brand building, it is in your best interest for you to realize and understand exactly who your ICP is, right? If you don't know what your ICP stands for, ICP is your ideal client profile. It is effectively the people who you are producing said content for in order to attract, in order to buy your services, right? However, alongside there being the ICP, you also need to bear in mind two other particular profiles, right? But before I even get started on that, I'm a brand authority strategist, right? So this is what I do. I help founder-led B2B experts to get to a level of brand authority. And if you aren't sure what brand authority is, it is essentially your personal brand multiplied by your business brand, multiplied by your campaign brand, which gives you brand authority. That allows you to get that level of visibility and credibility to drive enough interest from your ICP or your target audience that will then turn into more leads, which will then turn into more clients, which will ultimately drive into more revenue for your business, right? So with that, there's two additional profiles that you need to bear in mind when you are brand building and building that level of brand authority, right? The second one is your IFP, your ideal follower persona. Those are the people in particular who are effectively your biggest supporters. And the truth of the matter is, they may never buy anything from you. However, they are there to let people know who you are. They're there to amplify your work. They're there to engage with your work, for them to effectively be advocates for not only your story, but the work that you do. And they gravitate towards you based on what you're able to showcase and what you're able to teach, right? So those two are more of the well-known sort of profiles that you tend to focus on, right? However, the additional one that I discovered the other day, which I'm really aligning with the idea of building my community, is the ABP, right? That's the adjacent buyer profile. So those are the people that are, in fact, it's quite similar to your IFP, your ideal follower persona. However, there are bits that you may be potentially working on that they are more than happy to purchase and support, right? So with those three, there are particular ways that you should be able to identify who they are based on you being able to build your level of brand authority. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to share my screen and go through the process, so then you're able to see ways that you're able to build that level of interest within your business and your personal brand through the lens of your ICP, your IFP, and your ABP, right? So let me share my screen. And I got a new gadget as well, so I'm going to give it a go in this video and see how it goes. I don't have a Scooby if this is going to go the way that I intend, but we'll see. So anyway, let me share my screen. Cool. So let's give this one a go. So as mentioned, I said we have the... So what I'm going to do, I'm going to break it down based on what we established, right? So we got the personal brand. Oh gosh, this is interesting. All right. Personal brand. Let's see if we can do a line. All right. This ain't too bad. Business brand. This is actually jokes, you know. You guys are going to see me using this often. All right. Actually, matter of fact, what I tend to do, I tend to put the campaign brand in the middle. So let me do that. Despite the formula being that way, I do like to put the campaign brand in the middle for context. And then let's do the business. Oh gosh, I lost it. There we go. Business brand. And then let me zoom out a bit. All right, cool. So with the idea of, as mentioned, the ICP, right? The ICP fits firmly in here. Yeah. And the reason why is because that's a funny P, isn't it? The reason why is because the ICP is effectively, as mentioned, your ideal client profile. Those are the people who require your services. They're the ones who are going to be having particular issues or pain points that need to be resolved, and you know that you are the person that is able to resolve that particular thing for that particular prospect, right? So within your work that you're doing, when it comes down to building that level of brand authority and focusing on what you're doing with building your business brand, it's in your best interest to develop the content that then aligns with your ICP, that will then allow them to be immersed in your ecosystem and that will ultimately want to buy from you, right? So if I share my screen again, so then that can be anything from, let me see, let me move it there. All right, so that can be anything from testimonials. Yeah, I'll get better at this one, but this is actually quite cool. So yeah, ICPs or testimonials, case studies, and I would say video content. When we'll say video content, because ultimately we'll stick with those three for now. So we got testimonials, case studies, and video content. And with that, really and truly, it is more on the basis that your ICP is going to want to know who else has benefited from your services, who has actively been involved in the service or the program or whatever the case may be, and they've seen success from it, right? Also the elements of the case study. Who have you worked with that has led from you working with them and they've gone from A to B? What does that case study transformation look like? And through that, your ICP is interested in seeing real people who has benefited from your work. So you developing video content that aligns with you, showcasing how you was able to solve the pain points of clients that are very much similar to your ICP, that is what you need to consider when you are developing said content to align with that particular profile, right? But then if we get to your personal brand, and then this is where I believe and I feel in my heart that the idea of the IFP falls within here, right? And in that sense of things, right, the IFP, and although, and do not get me wrong, these things are going to be blended and strategized depending on who you are as a character, as a person within your business. Some things may particularly overlap. This is just a particular idea, just off the back of me just referencing the concept ideas. Some may need to be tweaked and customized to you, depending on how you are. But this is based on just a general observation of what it would look like if you were to split the two, right? So if I go back to the IFP would be interested in your story, right? They're interested in your story. They're interested in your transformation, because ultimately with your ideal follower persona, they want to also see themselves in you. They want to see that you've been through the process that they've been through at some stage, but you've managed to learn and develop your skills to the point where you've made a transformation. Effectively, you have managed to get yourself from A to B, right? And that A to B, through you documenting and showcasing the process. So if I put documentation, because that is ultimately the things that really matter for the idea of your IFP. So if I put that one here, so through the idea of that documentation side of things, alongside with the transformation and the story that you're showcasing, right? And it's not just one story, right? What we are doing, we are focusing on the origin story, right? The origin story. So if I put that here, and then I do a little, oh gosh. But you get the point. The origin story is what allows your IFP to resonate with you, and they support you. They've seen how you went from one place to the new place. They've seen your past, they've seen your present, and you have spoken what your future looks like, and you are taking them alongside you on the journey, right? That is how you build your ideal follower persona in a way that keeps them not only happy to support you and happy to follow you within your your journey, but they're also willing to advocate for you, to also showcase who you are in order to provide you opportunity based on word of mouth for peer-to-peer recommendations, right? And like I said, they may never ever purchase from you, but the whole point is that they are there to support and to provide that level of awareness towards your brand, which will then ultimately lead to the attention of the ICP. So for you developing that said content through the idea of storytelling, the transformation angle, the documentation of your journey, through the IFP, showcasing and sharing and engaging with your content, that then leads to your ICP being attracted to that particular thing based on the numbers, based on the awareness, based on the exposure that you have managed to get based on your support of the IFP. And then now your ICP, now you're within there, now they are in your ecosystem. So now based on that, although they now see that you have a personal brand, they see that you're visible, they see that you're liked, they see that people gravitate towards you, what is in it for them? And that's where we reaffirm that we go back to the idea that your ICP are looking for the testimonials, right? They're looking for the testimonials. They're looking for the case studies. They're looking for the video content to showcase that you are actually the person that you say you are, and you've done the work enough times to showcase the fact that it works, right? So that's the ICP and the IFP. And the last part that I want to get to, right, is the third profile that I mentioned, the ABP, the adjacent buyer profile. So I believe that the campaign brand is where the ABP sits, right? And the reason why I say that is because, so I'm going to put ABP. So the adjacent buyer profile. So the adjacent buyer profile is somewhat a mix between the ICP, right, and the IFP. And the reason so is because they may necessarily require your services, or they're interested in the work that you do, right? They have particular pain points that are very much similar to the ICP, right? However, they may not necessarily fit the criteria to a T as to why you would work with them in that particular moment. But they still have that level of support, and they trust your story and your transformation and the way you documented the process just as much as your IFP would. The only difference between the two with your ABP is that they have the pain point, but they also resonate enough with you where they would pay for your services. And that's why I feel the campaign brand is the best way to attract the ABP, because you are able to attract them off of the back of the campaigns that you run that allow you to both amplify your personal brand, as I mentioned, because remember what I said, it's your campaign brand that drives your personal brand up. And it's also your campaign brand that builds up your business brand, right? And then if I zoom out a tad, and then we put the campaign brand as we know that we're doing, that gives you, you guessed it, that level of brand authority in a very messy example, but you get my point, right? So if I just do a quick overview there, cool. So as you can see, that is what I say. The personal brand multiplied by your business brand multiplied by your campaign brand gives you that level of brand authority. But then if we go back, there we go. Let me go back up. How do I get back up here? All right, let's try this. Hey, this is not going to plan. All right. If I move this, oh, there we go. See, we're learning in real time, man. We're learning in real time. You have to respect it. So let's get back to business. So if I zoom back to the campaign brand, cool. So as mentioned, with the campaign brand now, like I said, I believe that is the optimal place that you want to position your adjacent buyer persona. Because like I said, they have elements of your ICP with the particular pain points and the areas that they are interested in. But at the same time, they definitely resonate with your story just as much as they resonate with the people that has worked with you and they've seen how you have allowed them to grow within your program or your services or your offering, right? So for argument's sake, right? So for argument's sake with a campaign brand, let's say for the campaign, you're looking to launch a community. So let's say we're going to launch a community, right? So messy. This is cool though. You're going to see me improve with this particular writing pad. But for argument's sake, with the community now, that allows you to attract them in the best way because they are going to join the community off the back of your personal brand, right? Off the back of your story, the transformation, the documentation of the journey. They want to feel the exact same thing. And because they've seen you do it, they've seen the live documentation and the live process of you being able to do it. That has allowed them to have enough trust in you. And especially with you being more visible, that also plays a part into how they're able to resonate with you and then also to gravitate towards you. But then it's through the element of the testimonials and the case studies and the video content that allows you to be able to do that. And it brings it all the way back where a community is an effective way to do so. So for argument's sake, if we were going to put some pound signs across it. So with the business brand, right? With your business, you're providing a solution to help your ICP. With that, it may be a particular sort of high ticket price point, right? So I'm going to put three pound signs. But then alongside with the personal brand, with the IFP, effectively, like I said, they may or may not buy anything from you. But if they do, we have to assume that it's going to be a low ticket. So I'm going to put £1 sign there, right? However, with the campaign brand, with you launching a course, with you launching a community, with you being able to find your adjacent buyer persona and then understanding that they have the qualities of your ICP whilst having the level of support as your IFP, right? They may not necessarily be interested in a high ticket offer and they may not feel like they may have more to give than what it is as a low ticket offer because they are immersed in not only your personal brand, but your business brand, right? And that is the reason why you will then present it as a medium ticket offer, something in between the low ticket and the high ticket. If you manage to get it on the ball in a way that can attract it through the lens of that, then you are able to then generate a way of revenue through your ABP through the way of campaign building, right? And that is the process that I share and I work with my clients. And I think that despite this being a bit messy, I think this ain't too bad. I think this ain't too shabby. So let me put this down now anyway. But I hope that helped you to have an understanding between your ICP, your IFP, and your ABP, right? And I know I'm just throwing loads of acronyms your way, but I feel that with the diagram itself, if I share my screen again, is a good way to look at it in a way for you to be able to attract those various different profiles off of the back of the work that you're doing. So let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Are you developing enough content to attract your ICP, but then you're also focused on your IFP? Are you aware of the ABP and being able to identify who your adjacent buyer persona is Are you doing the content that is able to reach out to all three at the same time, right? Let me know in the comments, and make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope that was helpful, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace out. Look after yourself.